Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Marketing Podcast, your source for all things marketing. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have Matt Rouse on the line, and he's managing partner over at Hook SEO, and he's also a host of Digital Marketing Masters podcast. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, so hey, excited to have a podcaster on the show. I'll tell you one thing I love doing is helping people promote their podcast and spreading that to my audience. So I'm excited to get into what kind of content you put out on your podcast, and also our topic today. So 3 secrets of email marketing. That's a big deal topic. But before we get into that, let's just talk a little bit more about your company. So tell us a little bit more about Hook SEO, please.
Sure. So Hook SEO is a bootstrap digital marketing agency. We built it. It's actually a merger of 2 previous companies. One was in the payment processing and e-commerce space, and then my company was in design and SEO and advertising, and we merged them in 2014. We have staff now in the United States and Costa Rica, and we solve very difficult problems, which may not have been the easiest choice of something to do with our company, but we solve really difficult problems like people who have a hard time finding clients because there's no targeting available for those types of clients. That would be things like we do bail bond agencies, or we do we have someone who inspects welding. There's just things you can't go out into Facebook and say, run some ads to target someone who needs welding inspection, right? So we solve those kind of problems. And on the other side of the coin, we also like to help our small business clients too. So we do local SEO, like map-wise SEO for geo-targeted advertising for companies. And we have some resources that are self-serve, like our Inbox Mastery course about email marketing, as well as the podcast Digital Marketing Masters, which we now have 108 episodes released so far.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So that's awesome. And let's get a little bit further into the podcast. So tell us a little bit more about the content you put out and the types of interviews. Let's get into that one. So again, it's called Digital Marketing Masters Podcast. Definitely want everyone to go check that out.
Yeah, the Digital Marketing Masters Podcast, I wanted it to be something a little bit different. So what we do is we look for someone who can provide some kind of actionable, tactical information every single episode. So you won't listen to an episode where you don't have something that you can take away and use to build your business. And we've been doing that. We've released twice a week now, and we've been doing it for almost 2 years now. And the kinds of guests we have are not always just digital marketing guests. Some of them are other industry people. For example, the episode we released today was a lady who's in the payment processing industry. We have one coming up from a fantastic charity organization called Answer to Cancer that does patient information, like an online event for people to find information about cancer treatment and stuff like that. And then I interviewed a gentleman earlier today who is a writer for video games, but he's also a copywriter. And so we talked about business copywriting too. So that's kind of some of the information that we have on our podcast. It's really fun.
Man, that's awesome. So let's dive a little bit further into today's topic. So 3 secrets of email marketing. I mean, I want to know these secrets from you because that's one of the things that our company is always thinking about is how do we implement email? What can we do? How do we reach out to the right audience and the right people? I mean, where do you want to start this topic? What's some secrets?
So the number one secret of email marketing is the secret that almost no one tells anyone about doing email marketing. And that is you have to create something of value to your target market that they would pay for, and then you need to give it to them for free. What everybody usually does is tries to find some kind of free content that is freely available on the internet, repackage it and say, give me your email address for this repackaged free content that nobody really wants, right? I mean, it has to be something that has real value to it. And then once you have that working, you want to duplicate that over and over as many times as you can. For example, for our Inbox Mastery email course, we call these lead magnets, right? Something that you download to attract leads. We have 50 of those created. So for your company, it can be just one to kind of get you started, but you have something that people want that has some value that you can offer them. And then secret number 2 is you got to have a clean list. A lot of people try to hide the unsubscribe button or don't put one at all, which is against the law, by the way. But you don't want to hide it because if somebody doesn't want your content or your emails, let them leave your list. Number 1, because they're just going to eventually report you as spam anyway, which can get you blacklisted, make it so you have problems getting into people's inboxes. You don't want all your emails to go to the spam folder, but also you pay by the number of subscribers. So if you're on MailChimp, Constant Contact, SendFox, or whatever it is, right? You pay by the number of subscribers. So take those subscribers out of your list because you don't want to be paying for people who don't want your stuff. And then the third secret is you want to consistently add value. And when I say add value, I know people say that term a lot. But I mean, you need to consistently give people more of the thing you told them that you were going to give them when they signed up. You can't say, sign up to get marketing tips every week, and then you send them one marketing tip, and then every week after that you say, buy my stuff, right? You have to be consistently providing the value that you promised them, and that's what's going to build trust over time. That's what's going to make long-term customers and, all the wonderful things that come along with having that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of email marketing in general? So just take a step back because I feel like, and just so to be clear, let me pick on myself for a moment. So we've had a list, we had other things, we've done a lot and I mean, we're now, I think, going on 3-4 years in media in terms of the business overall. I've been full time and we just started emailing our list as of February of this year. We weren't even doing it for years. And I knew it was one of those things that was at the back of our mind and we thought about it and we're like, oh yeah, we'll get to it because other things are working or whatever else. And it's I feel like there's a lot of people listening that are in that exact same boat. They're just not sending the email at all. Can you talk a little bit more? And when I say it, to me, it's my opinion, whatever. But you're a pro. I mean, this is what you do day in and day out for clients, helping them. I mean, can you talk just a little bit more about the importance?
Right. So if you are an e-commerce brand where you're specifically selling online, you should be getting roughly 40% of your revenue from your email list. So if you're not emailing anyone, you could be missing out on 40% of your revenue, right? So that's a big jump already. Now, if you're someone who is maybe a coach or a thought leader, you sell courses and stuff, that number could be as high as 60%. So if you are a service-based industry, even a local business, your plumbers, contractors, electricians, all that kind of stuff, even those companies are seeing as much as 5 to 10% of the revenue coming in from having a regular emailer. So no matter what type of industry that you're in, those emails create revenue. They also build trust and they keep you top of mind, even if somebody is just deleting them, right? So say somebody doesn't want to maybe get your email from your flower shop, every month. They don't read it. They only read it when they need flowers. They still see the name of your flower company in their inbox every time it comes in, right? So it's kind of that repetitive branding. So it has the branding value. And then you also get the ability to have a conversation with your customers. I like to say, if no one is responding to your email marketing, as in they've hit the reply button and typed something in to send to you, if no one is replying, then your emails are too boring. So I'll give you a good example. I sent out an email to one of our lists yesterday. We have about 700 people on that list. It's a pretty specific one. And I got 6 responses. And what we had sent out was we were talking about we're going to actually suspend our normal conversation about marketing this week because we wanted to talk about the wildfires and stuff around Oregon, where I live, where our company is. And here's some resources that you can use to help people or to donate and things like that. And we had 5 or 6 people write us back and say how, oh, they loved it. Do you mind if I send this to someone else? And, so we're having a conversation with the people on our list. We're not just like yelling at them from our list.
Wow, that's so important. That's so on target, and it just shows like a company overall when they're in tune with what's going around. Like it's not always, and it's not always about the sell. Like it's about you got to give content, you got to give things of value, you got to build that relationship through email, which can be done. And I've seen it done, and I've noticed just in our business that when we started doing email, and I'm not even saying we do email well, by the way, so just to be clear, but just the fact that we started doing it and that we started, sending our podcast episodes out, and we started doing that, started building the relationship, and we get replies all the time, like from people that are like, hey, I want to talk about starting a podcast, or that's our business, podcast agency and editing, doing that kind of stuff. And they reply back and they're like, hey, but following the show, we wanted to talk a little bit more about this. And again, I'm not even claiming we do it well. So for the people that do it well, I'm like, man, like you can't miss the boat on that. Like you have to send out those emails. Can you talk a little bit more about the content aspect of things, and what that looks like? And I know it's going to be different, by the way, so I don't mean that a loaded question, because every company is going to be different. Everybody's going to have a different message. So I don't mean like specifically what to send. I mean more so like the importance of the messaging that they want to convey, because for you, like that shows your brand immediately. Like you're very in tune with, you're obviously working in the local market for a certain portion. You said that was a very specific list, right? Had to have been in Oregon if you're going to tell them and educate them about that. But talk a little bit more about the importance of the content, and that you're not just spending 5 minutes on this and just hitting the send.
Right. So with larger organizations, one of the biggest failings that they have in email marketing is that they have people who don't care about email marketing creating their newsletters. Right?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point, Matt.
But they have a meeting, right? They have a meeting with 7 people around the table, and the boss says, okay, guys, we need to have an email newsletter. And then somebody gets put in charge of it, usually an admin or, someone in the marketing department. And that person goes out to the, like the head of engineering and says, I need an article from you for the newsletter, and then they write something that is full of jargon and worthless that no one's going to read. It really needs to be a conversation around whatever it is that you promise people you're going to give them in the first place. So, for example, my letter is marketing tips with entertaining stories is how I say this is what we're going to send people. And I will generally, not always, but most of the time, I will write a story that's some kind of business anecdote that then comes around back to a point of some kind of tactical information that someone can use for marketing their business. Now, what you don't want to be sending is stuff like the automated email that comes from your real estate CRM system that's like a giant graph that nobody understands that says, well, the time on market has gone up 4 days over June of last year, but the blah, 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 nobody cares and nobody reads it. What you do want to send, let's say we use the real estate example again, you want to say your opinion and your take on what that data shows, and then give them the data if they want to read it, right? And now you're showing your value, right? You're showing that you understand, you're showing that you have expertise. You're giving people the information they need. And if we stay with that same example as a real estate agent, you send that information out, then myself as someone reading it, I can say, hey, I got an email from, I got an email from my realtor, and they told me that housing prices are probably going to go up because the amount of time it's taking to sell houses keeps getting shorter. So that's an example of how you could use your expertise to send out a newsletter. And we're only talking about sending a few sentences, right? Like, what does the data mean? Well, if the time on market is shorter, it means the cost of houses are likely to improve.
Awesome. It's great tips, Matt. So that being said, if somebody, because I can talk to you about this stuff all day long, but we're about out of time. So if somebody is listening to this right now and they want to learn more about Hook SEO, or they want to listen to your podcast and just follow what you're doing overall, or get on that newsletter with those tips, I mean, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and your brand?
You can go to hookseo.com. It's HOOKSEO.com. And that has the podcast, it has our inbox mastery links, it has a link to get on our newsletter list, all that stuff's there.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing some of your secrets of email marketing. They're definitely helpful to me, and I'm sure a lot of my audience will benefit from it too. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Marketing, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.